We want to welcome everybody live to the Stunt Hangar program, and this evening we got the one, the only, we got the man, Bill Werwage. We want to give Billy a welcome. Go ahead, Bill.
Well, it's good to be on, good to be seen, good to be heard, good to be alive, good to be talking to the Spark.
Better to be seen, better to be seen than viewed, right?
Right. Right.
What I wanted to get into is, I've been doing a lot of research on footage of you in your younger days, and boy, it's hard to find. I think the oldest video that I could find was a VSC where you were flying a Green Aries. Bob McDonald was holding that. But I want to take you a little farther back. Go ahead and give us a rundown on how you got started in the Detroit series airplanes and your Aries.
Well, I started in those about the end of 1954, and more into them in 55. I was flying a Barnstormer, and some people came down from Michigan, and it happened to be Art Pulaski, Rod Ferris, Roland McDonald, and some real bad boys with some beautiful airplanes that I knew they were good, but I didn't really know that they were, probably in the top 4 or 5 in the world, and maybe probably a little better compared to what the Europeans were then. And I looked at those airplanes, and I knew I wanted to do that. But at 12 years old, you're a little limited on some of your concept and what you can actually accomplish are two different things. So, although I suffer from that now. But
right.
I started building what I thought was what they were doing from a wrecked combat plane. The wing was built the same way with basically a spar and strip ribs. So as I got farther along with the Barnstormer and flew a lot of contests, I was in St. Clair Shores, Michigan, and with my father, and I was flying the Barnstormer, and I had this really going. I had a back flying field in the backyard, and kind of ate and slept it all the time. And I was flying, and Art Pulaski jumped up and said, "Who's that kid?" And so they kind of started to introduce themselves. And at the time, a lot of us didn't know that they even could talk because they never said anything about their airplanes or anything. They just came and won, and they were polite and they left. So I got kind of snuck in the back door with it. And while I never took anything directly, I never had anybody's airfoils or anything else. I learned a lot of things about dimensions and things from Milton Booz, who was another I-beam guy.
Right.
And it just kept building. About 19, when I was 15, I had the I-beam thing really going. I won the King Orange. I wanted to beat Eddie Mays because we were kind of the child prodigies at the time. And from then on, it was all I-beams until, the first I built D-tubes. I built a Vulcan that was a D-tube and an I-beam. But mostly they were I-beams, and it served me real well. I did it all the way up into the 70s until I finally built a couple of D-tubes and things, and in the 80s, and then it's been back and forth ever since.
Let me ask you a question on the I-beams. I'm a friend of Ron O'Toole's, and he's a big fan of full ribs. Have you ever done that, where you put the?
Yeah, I have. I really, if you take the strip rib back far enough, back to where we're putting generators and things now, go a little past there, you're pretty safe that you've covered what's real important. I don't think that air is going to break up or really be any better with more ribs. I couldn't tell a difference in the way they flew with more ribs.
Well, so the strip rib, as long as you have some type of stiffener in between the two and maybe some half ribs or whatever at the leading edge, and you keep that airfoil, it's a pretty good way to go then, right?
It is. For a while, I kind of had thought that maybe I-beams flew better not only because we could line the wing and tail up so good, because we didn't really have real jigs. We had little balsa things, and they were straight, but they not as straight as we try to make them now. And I thought maybe that the I-beam airplanes flew better because of that, and possibly the way the leading edge was with the sag and the covering was really our ally. But then I built, and I didn't prove it by this, but I built a Vulcan and two Vulcans, and they were as identical as they could be. One was a G-tube and the other was an I-beam, and they flew, unlike a lot of times when you try to build two things, they flew almost identical.
So the I-beam or the D-tube.
Maybe there isn't so much to all that.
Yeah, there's no difference between the two wings then.
Right.
Yeah, that's good.
Right.
Well,
I like the weight distribution on the I-beam, because even if they're both 39-ounce airplanes, most of the weight that is in the center of that wing, rather than dribbling it out to the tips with, hollow blocks and things for tips and all that sheeting. And there could be a little advantage to that, but I'm not, I have no way of really positively knowing that.
I've been tempted, and I'm still thinking about doing it, is building an I-beam with a molded leading edge and cap strips. What do you think?
Well, I think kind of one of the beauties of not building an I-beam that's got sheeting on it, you've already got enough wing there, strength-wise. And the fact that a D-tube can actually hold up with an egg crate, even, like the old Noblers were, with a piece of 16 standing up. You've got what I think you're doing, in my opinion, why I wouldn't do it, is it combines the weight of both of them.
No, I'm not talking about a full 3-inch sheet. I'm talking about just molding the leading edge and coming back.
Oh, you're talking about for the integrity of the leading edge. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Go back, how far? Inch and a half or something, inch?
Yeah, an inch and a half, and then cap stripping it with 3/16 cap strips on top of a 16th-inch strip rig.
Oh, that'd be an interesting wing.
I think it would be stronger and possibly lighter. I don't know.
It wouldn't be heavier, but I'll tell you, you could really get something dead on that way.
Right. I had thought about doing that for a while. We're back in those days when you were doing the I-beam wings. I met Roland McDonald probably in '94, so it's long after those days for you. But
yeah.
Roland was a good guy, and I thought a really good engineer. Did he play any part in your development along Stunt?
He played a part in my competing, because he used to come and pick me up when we go places,
Right.
And I kind of learned things from that. As far as design went, he was much different than what I thought, even as a kid. What I was doing was closer to the lines of Pulaski.
Right.
With Roland built airplanes with 1-to-1 controls. He always told me I can't build as light as I should, and they're a little bigger. And I remember him saying that, because they were like 7 ounces heavier. So he needed to have the George Aldrich crutch at 1-to-1.
Right.
The flap with as much movement as you could throw at it.
I personally don't like 1-to-1. I like more elevator than flap.
Oh yeah. That's we've been had 3 days of moving out, getting rid of the flap on Chris's airplane. Back the old airplanes were about as extreme. They were about 30-45. I mean, we're really talking about Steve Woolley and I used to look at him, and these Noblers sitting there, and Steve, the joke was, I'm going to go over and ask that guy if those flaps are broke. And they'd be sitting there on the ground, So,
right.
I never had much use for it, and when I did try it, it just didn't fit what I was, you got all that resistance to turn, and you're not going to stall it anyway.
Right.
So, I mean, even in the way back, I thought that way. And I think that's part of why the I-beam airplanes, most of them flew that good. And Raleigh always had a heavier airplane, but he flew good, and he knew how to do it. But I I didn't go along. His things may have looked similar, but really numerically they were really different.
Well, you know, I grew up on the West Coast, and you said that Art Pulaski was your kind of influence. Well, two guys that were my influence were Bill Noyes and Tom Warden. And
Yeah.
you said that you had that desire, and that's what I saw when I first saw his Continental. I had the desire to build that airplane. That was just something else.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I knew Tom pretty well, you know, and Tom was something else. He was probably one of the finest painter and craftsmen, and Tom could really fly. I think if Tom would have concentrated more on trying to win rather than just doing a lot of different things, he would have been one of the better flyers that we've ever had.
Right. Well, you know, he was the world fastest quick draw at one time.
I know that. I know. He told me about it. Every time I am the fastest in the world at something, and it's quick draw. Well, that's no small task.
That's right.
You know,
millisecond to draw and shoot. And
unfortunately, he shot himself in the long run.
I think
Shouldn't say that.
I haven't had Bob Whiteley on here yet, and I'm going to try to get him on. But I think at one particular time, Tom flew a perfect pattern. But you know that's kind of BS because nobody flies a perfect pattern.
Right, right. It still hasn't been done, and we're doing the same pattern we did from '57. You know.
Well, moving back, you know, doing the same pattern, have you really think we've come that far aerodynamically?
I think we are better than we ever were with them, definitely. Those airplanes were good, but really, if you take them, I think the classics get well trimmed now, better trimmed probably than we did, and they look nice, and it's nice you can get some pretty good patterns with them. I don't think the overall what they can do overall is they're a little bit of a good piston engine fighter compared to a jet.
See, I recently I have big airplanes. I had electric airplanes, and I'm slowly getting rid of my electric because I don't know. I don't feel I have enough power overhead, but everybody says they do, and they have some other inherent problems. But I went back to the classic airplanes. You know, I don't like all that weight in the nose.
Yeah. Well, that's been something every motor I've got's got whatever number of mag parts I can do, and everything. You know how that my airplanes are. They're pretty well bailed out in front. You know.
Right. Well, it's like
part of the reason I wanted to do a Thunderbolt was the fact it didn't have a spinner.
Right. Well, that's what Ron keeps telling me. I got to lose parts. I got to lose the pieces. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, there's not much way, especially with the way you build, and I've built some light ones, I've built some heavy ones. It's just like when we talked about your Thunderbolts. I built 3 of those, and I didn't think they were all that great. I mean, they were a good flying airplane, but nothing exceptional. But I didn't realize in 2004 that your airplane was 56 ounces.
Yeah, 54.
54. There's a there's a huge difference there, where I've, got 15 ounces on you. It's ridiculous.
Oh, yeah. Anytime you fly with the weight of a dry cylinder, you're handicapping yourself.
Yeah. And me being a small guy that, the wind picks up and pulls me all around the circle. Whew, it's
Yeah, you don't need that weight on there. I hear you're building some lighter airplanes lately.
Oh, I got some real light ones. The one that I just finished is 49 ounces.
Yeah.
Still 9 ounces too heavy.
Is it? What is it?
The Continental.
Oh, okay.
The classic Continental. But I'll tell you what, even at 49 ounces, that's a pound lighter than the original.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then I have a big Monado that I built, a tribute airplane to Tom, that's got a Super Tiger 60 in it. It came in at, I think it was 55 or 56 ounces, and that's not bad, but
that's good.
It's still big.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm of the type of anytime you got that much mass flying around, it's harder to turn. It's harder to turn a tank than it is a Volkswagen.
That's right. That's right.
Well,
It's harder to lock that tread up.
You know, Lou McFarland came about, and Tom Warden started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I used to build a lot of airframes for Tom. He would send me wood because he worked for testers at the time, and I would frame them up, and he would paint them. And I built the first few Futuras. Have you ever heard of that airplane?
Yeah, yeah.
And they were Super Tiger 46, and I think Lou McFarland really put the kibosh on us by getting these big engines and big air. I guess he had a torpedo, 49 and
45, yeah.
Oh.
But they were light.
Yeah.
That's why the Super Aries has got an 11.5-inch nose, and it only weighed 52 ounces. So you can imagine how light that motor was.
Yeah, yeah. Did it have that much more power?
Well, I ended up with a lot of nitro and stuff in them, but when Lou went to the Vico, I didn't go along with it because, to me, they were just too heavy. I mean, by today's standards, they're not heavy, but boy, back then, compared to a K&B, it was a brick, you know.
I was watching you fly that green Aries. I guess that's a 59, or was it a 62?
That's a 62, the green one.
Okay. And, you know, to me, those patterns look much better than they do of the patterns today with the modern airplanes, but that's just me, you know. People...
Well, I think there's a lot of people feel that way. There's people who told me the whole thing seems to be more in concert with itself, with the length of the lines and the size of the airplane.
Right. And
is that the kind of feeling you have about it?
I do.
The whole combination's a little happier.
I watched, Al Rabe sent me some CDs of him flying his critical mass. I'm showing him here on camera. His critical mass, and I thank you, Al, for sending those to me. But watching that airplane fly, it didn't have the feeling of it that it had back in the 60s when they would just run along and then snap, turn, and then go right straight up. You know what I'm saying? Right,
right. So it's an effort to you know, he had some pretty heavy airplanes, and you know, with on no wing, and he was the master of making that work. But I don't think that was, and I've flown most of them. It just wasn't, to me. It was a hard way to go when you fly against airplanes with better wing loading.
Right. They're beautiful. He does great. He did great work.
Oh yeah, he's the master of that, and he's come up with a lot of things. But I personally, you can see when I decided to go scale, and part of that was flying his and liking the looks of them. You know, I still built a stunt plane first, and then you know, rather than building kind of as much scale plane as stunt plane.
When I came out there in '04 and told you I was going to build them Thunderbolts before there was any plans, you know, I didn't know how to mold balsa wood, and I just kind of took a stab at it, you know, and boy, there was just no way. And if it wasn't for you taught me how to mold the wood and didn't even know it, I still wouldn't have it, you know, because I could not figure out how to get it to go around those compound curves.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Bubba and I did it together, and really it all came, that really is all, speaking of Al Rabe, that's where I got it from.
Yeah, Al does different type of molds, though. He makes them out of plaster.
Yeah, yeah. But the concept is the same, you know.
Right. You know, ever what works for you. You know, if plaster works for him. He's got a funny jigging setup that I've never seen or even tried to do. You know, but if that works, what the heck?
Right, right.
Let's go. We're going to take a break here in about 5 minutes, and I thought that I'd bring Bubba in on your last half, if you don't mind.
I don't care.
Yeah, we'll bring Bob in on the second half, and you guys can run a little bit of banter back and forth about your days at the World Championships, and
we can do that.
All right, let me see if I'll get him on, then we'll go to break.
All right.
Yeah, we can still chat because I just need to get his phone number here. And I really do appreciate you taking the time out and coming on here.
Well, we've been Chris and I have been beating this to death. He's flown 50-some flights in the last 3 days, and we made a lot of progress. And we're getting ready to show the world this demonstration here.
How am I supposed to add a call here? I want to add a phone. This stupid program. I don't want to hang up. I want the dial.
We can do. I can do it from my end.
Oh, you can. Go ahead.
Yeah, let me call Bob.
Go ahead and bring him in.
Okay. I'm not going to hang up on you, but I'll lose you for a second here. Hold on.
All right. I didn't realize Chris was on there.
Yeah, he's right here.
I'm holding the phone for him, making sure he.
He's paying me back for what I do for him.
Yeah.
He holds the phone.
I gotta ask you, now that he's got you in hand, and I know the canopy mold's in the same place, am I going to get a canopy out of this deal?
Yes, you are. And you can, when we get Bubba on there, we're going to send it to him because he's the one that volunteered to do it, and I'm the one that didn't get my part of the thing done. But we have the mold right here.
Yeah,
it's the table.
It's sitting right next to my plane.
Well, Bob.
Here, let me call him right now.
Okay, Billy. Bob Hunt can't do anything. He's kind of on his back right now.
Oh, I know, but you know him. He's gonna find some way to be doing stuff. He may not fly, but he'll be doing stuff.
Let me call Bob. I'm gonna lose you for a second.
Okay.
All right. I think we got everybody. The whole party's here.
We're here.
All right.
We're here.
Yeah, welcome, Bob. We got Billy on the line. We got Chris on the line.
How did your flying go today?
That's good. We got a third engine in it, and they all work great.
And the right prop.
And the right prop.
All right, let me get this right now. I'm flying twins, and you're flying tri-motors?
Yeah.
Third engine?
Yeah. No, but we got them all working exactly the way we need to. So if one doesn't work, the next one doesn't work, we got the third one.
Cool.
Wanted you, Bob, to try to bring Billy in on your trips to the worlds and some of the bantering that you've done throughout the years going to
Oh
VSC.
my gosh. I don't know if the statute of limitations has run out on all this or not,
Well, we're talking about the Aries, so this is current events compared to that.
Yeah, really. Well, we went to a few together, I guess.
Yes, we did.
In Poland, and that was probably the most infamous of them. We all got arrested thanks to my taking pictures of an old Russian biplane sitting on a field that we meandered onto looking to practice, and we didn't realize that it was a Russian radar installation right behind it, and we were promptly arrested, and my cameras were confiscated. Billy and Les wanted to feed me my cameras. They were so ticked off at me. But that was an interesting it was an interesting thing.
Do either one of you guys happen to have pictures of that trip?
I have some pictures, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it'd be great to put up now. I'm looking.
We've all got our hands up through the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm kind of looking.
That was the problem. That was the problem. I took pictures during the trip, you know.
I'm looking for pictures and videos to add in over the top of this, you know.
Well, we have some pictures from the actual contest, but all the photos that I took away from the contest were confiscated by the authorities. And at the end of the contest, they called me down to there was a big meeting where they had cameras and recorders and everything. And I was accused of espionage, and they actually gave me back the cameras, and the film had been destroyed. And they asked me if I knew I had done, I was wrong, and I said, yeah, okay. And the only reason that I understand they let me go, or let all of us go, is because we took first, second, and third at that World Championships, and it would have been an embarrassment for them to arrest the winning team. Now, you got to remember that was 1980 when we had boycotted the Olympics that year, and they gave us, the government said we really shouldn't even go over there, but we went anyway. And this was their way of kind of getting even with us, I think. So.
Well, Billy, why don't you kind of advise us how you and Bob came up with kind of the numbers or ever how you guys, whoever did the Thunderbolt, because that's kind of the big story. We're going to bring that Thunderbolt back into kit.
Yeah, I had nothing to do with coming up with those numbers at all. That was Billy and I guess Randy, wasn't it?
Somewhat, yeah. We came up with the first wing.
Mm-hmm.
I seem to
Yeah.
remember.
We kind of co-built the first. That was the first big lost foam wing we ever did, and we built that here at my house. But basically, it was Billy's design, and Billy's concept. I had really nothing to do with that at all.
Billy, I seem to remember watching a video somewhere of a Bearcat where you drew something on the wall and you kind of extrapolated some formers. You want to give us some insight on that?
The Bearcat never materialized. He got part way along, and I don't know, something killed the Bearcat.
Well, actually, we were going to do the Bearcat. We were going to do a molding video together, and he said he had a Bearcat design he'd like to do the shells for. So he came in late one evening and handed me the drawing, and the drawing really didn't. It was just a pencil drawing. I said, we really need to make this look neater. So I stayed up all night long and inked the drawing, so the next day we could start doing the video and have a nice, neat ink drawing. But basically, that was my only contribution to that, and being the cameraman. But I learned so much from Billy because he was showed me how to do the overlaps and the cutting out the little pie piece and doing compound curve molding.
Which I had learned what I could steal from Al Rabe.
Yeah, I think Al Rabe really should get the lion's share of the credit.
Was the molding man. He really was. A lot of people said I'm moldy, but he was the molding man.
Yeah.
That video and we talked about I-beam wings, Bill, before Bob came on. That video that Bob produces of the I-beam wing is basically how I kind of refined my I-beam building, and I kind of recommend it to anybody. You got anything you want to say about building an I-beam wing that would help the guys along?
I'll tell you, I would say get the video, because I think we did that. I think Bob and I are both real. I know I'm very proud of that video as far as really showing what that really is. It took all the mystery out of it, and a lot of people have come up to me and told me they actually learned to build something that they thought they wouldn't be able to ever do. And it wasn't that, we really did make it doable.
Well,
and I'll pat us both on the back for that, because that did come off that way too. A lot of times you do something, you go, geez, I wish I would have told them a little more about this or that. But I feel like we really covered that wing.
Well, I
can tell you something humorous about that whole thing. Was that I was big into learning how to do video work really professionally, trying to do it as clean and clear as I could. So we were doing live sections where we'd introduce what we were going to do next, and then we'd go into a time-lapse piece, and then we would do voiceover narrations. So I'd write the narration, and then I'd have Bill, read it into a recorder, so I could then make clips and put them where I wanted them, all the narration. And I was very anal about it, and I wanted everything to be just perfect, and I kept having to read these things over and over and over again, and I thought he was going to kill me at one point there.
That's so big to know.
One thing I have...
But it came out pretty good.
One thing I have learned about I-beam wings, there will be no half ribs from now on.
Why is that?
Because the covering always pokes through right there.
Well, you got to round that just slightly round that off.
Yeah.
Before you cover it. Not so much that it sticks in it, and pulls it down, but enough that if you press on it or anything, there's a little bit of wiggle room for that covering.
Well, I just went to full ribs.
I have a confession to make. I never actually ever built an I-beam wing. I was scared of them. But now if I were going to build one, the video has made it very clear how to do it. Very simple.
Well, everybody thinks it's the hardest thing to do, but you can build an I-beam much faster than you can build anything else. Much faster.
Yes, right.
Simple. Simple. I love them.
Yeah, they're beautiful. I remember the first time that we saw Bill's Juno. It was in Fort Gillem, Georgia, at the team selection, and he showed up mid-afternoon, and he wouldn't show us the airplane until it was like almost twilight, and all the lights came on in the parking lot of the motel we were staying at, and there was all kinds of lights coming from all different directions, and there was some twilight still coming out. Then he pulled it out of the car and set it on the ground, and of course all the reflections from every direction made the thing look like it was built by God, you know, and I think that was really calculated that he did that, because it just completely demoralized everybody there, you know.
Did
it was
you actually
so gorgeous.
No, it happened. It just happened.
Yeah, right.
Nothing I've done with an airplane starts related. It just happened that way.
Well, one thing I wanted to get back to on the pipe development. You had a big hand in pipe development. Wasn't that a pain in the ass, making the mandrels and pulling the socks and doing all that stuff?
Who, me?
To me or Bob?
Billy.
No, it was too much of a pain in the ass for Bob, and I ended up with it. I don't like
the actual real thing was, you know, that Richie Tower gets a lot of the credit for that, because he's an engine guy. He built circle track racing engines for cars and things. He was very, very savvy engine man. And when this second reflected wave tune pipe thing came up for RC pattern, for the turnaround type pattern, Richie cracked the books and found all the formulas and came up with the idea of what to do. And Dean Pappas and he kind of developed it all. And then I was just a handle monkey. I was just, you know, here, Bob, fly this, tell me what you think of it, you know. And the problem was that we all had, you know, daytime jobs. And Bill was a musician who worked basically in the evening, and he had all day long to fly. So as soon as I felt the potential, I said, let's call Billy and get him in on this, because he can test this thing out. And we handed it all over to Bill, and he and Randy took it to another level, you know. So.
Right. Well, Bill, you did a lot of the prop development, didn't you?
Yeah, a lot of cutting the carbon, and I'm still doing it.
Yeah, he hasn't stopped, that's for sure.
No, this is had 3 days of it here.
Well, I got the last two propellers that Jerry Phelps made that were your design, and I love them.
The magic prop.
Yeah,
the magic prop. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I love those things.
Yeah, those are like very valuable.
Bill,
I think you used a few classical ones.
You got anything that you want to add on your career? What, you know, where do you see yourself going in the next 5-10 years?
Well, I hope to stay above ground. I don't want my bottoms to get underground. No, I see more development. I've been working on some different things, and really some other prop ideas and things that I'm working with now. And I'm not out of competing, but I've got Chris sitting here, and I'm going to hand the stricken stick over to him somewhere along the line here. But I see things going forward. I don't think we've reached the end of what we can do with the piston, and I see electric. You know, I'm sure the batteries are going to get better. I think the world's wide open on the electric, and I'm sure eventually we're going to all fly them, because either that or else we're going to come up with some kind of hydrogen pill that powers everything. Or some, you know what I mean? But I mean, it's not standing still. Is what I feel. It could be, if we're not careful about the way we do some of the things with the rules, but I'm not going to get into that. This is non-political, and I don't want to get into that.
You have another
semi.
Do you have another semi-scale on the board? You have another semi-scale on the board?
No, but actually, I'd like to build another Thunderbolt.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not done with it. Every time I take the Thunderbolt out, I go, you know, you guys have been a real friend to me, and I still like the looks of you. And Bob has done some stuff with Chris on the looks of the Typhoon, which really does look great in the air. I mean, I look at that and I think, oh, I could get British for a little while. You know, it's got a thing to it. You know, it doesn't look like I had seen other typhoons that look like, oh, geez, I don't know about that. This looks like it should. There's things out there I'd like to build. It's just a matter of, you know, getting them done.
Did
we
you?
sure spent a lot of time in the shop together, didn't we, building stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Bill would come in and visit for a week or two at a time, and we'd work until we just couldn't. Till we just dropped almost on the floor of the shop. And when we woke up, we'd do it again until we dropped again. And it went on like that for days on end. It just seemed like we had so much fun and developed so much stuff.
Then to prove we were real men, we'd drive 29 hours to Tucson without sleeping.
Those trips to Tucson, what did we take, 9 or 10 of those?
The dark side of the story is we'd sleep for a week.
Yeah, I mean, it was those trips to Tucson were some of my favorite times of my whole life. The trip there and the trip back. Because we were both, you know, love music. Of course, Bill's a very accomplished musician, but you know, we both like basically the same kind of music, and we spent half the time working out harmonies to songs we were listening to on the CD player, and half the time talking about model airplanes. And we kind of coalesced over those 9 or 10 years we made those trips together. And the trips were really cool because I'd leave here on a Thursday night from Pennsylvania after having worked all day, and I'd drive to Berea, which took about 6.5 hours, get there about 2 or 3 in the morning. We'd load up on Friday morning at about 2 or 3 in the morning, and we'd be in Tucson Saturday afternoon. I remember going out to John's to videotape his whole operation out there when I first got into videotaping. And the next stop was out at Billy's house where we did the Man in His Museum video. But at John's place, I remember being out in his backyard and panning the camera around looking at his backyard. And he said they flew on one circle there at the club. And I said, man, you ought to hold a contest here. And I remember the exact words he said was, do you think anyone would come? I said, yeah, I think the whole world would come, you know. So, and it was very prophetic because it turned out to be one of the best contests of all time. And BSC, I think.
I'd like to interject this. I don't know. There's kind of was a small pissing contest going on in the forum about this Bob Shaw contest. I think it's great that Bob Shaw is putting on a contest. Yeah, you know.
Well, yeah, and the people down there are so accommodating, and they treat us like kings. I mean, they really do. Yeah, there are a lot of rich people down there, but there are a lot of people in pup tents as well, and they all get along together. And this guy, Mark Weiss, he is just phenomenal. He's a dyed-in-the-wool RC scale flyer who runs that Warbirds over Delaware contest, and he's switched over to flying nothing but control line, and he promotes control line more than anyone I know. So let's all get behind him and Bob Shaw and the Joe Knoll, Pat Hartness out there, and really support that thing if we possibly can.
Well, you know, they were moaning about it falls on a certain day or whatever. Well, you know, that's just the way it happened this year. Maybe next year they'll have it all sorted out. But, you know, we got to get something going because Brodax has only got 2 more years. So if Shaw's going to continue this at Joe Knoll, I see no problem with it.
And it's a world-class site. I mean, it's a two grass fields that are better than asphalt. You can ground run your airplane for laps on there and laps if you wanted to. It's so smooth and so soft and it's just so perfect. It's a beautiful environment, really nice people. And Hartness, who's I guess a billionaire, he comes down there and mows the lawn for us personally. I mean, you can't ask more than that, you know.
Right. Have you been down there, Billy?
Pardon?
Have you been to Joe Knoll?
No, no. But I've been to Spain. Kind of like the music.
Tell me I was born there.
I once spent the night at the Holiday Inn.
I'm old, I can't remember.
Oh, man.
Well, this has been kind of a interesting interview. We got about 15 more minutes. I'm going to take a short break.
Yeah.
You guys continue talking. I'll go ahead and run. Welcome to the second half of the Stunt Hangar broadcast. We got Bob Hunt, Billy Werwage and Chris Rudd on the line all at the same time. Welcome back, guys.
Is that even legal? Yeah.
Well, I'm hoping that this is going to be the highest rated broadcast that I got, because I got such superstars on here.
Okay. Some aging superstars, maybe. I tell you, the superstar of the future, one of them is going to be this Chris Rudd guy over here. He sure impressed Billy and I at the Nationals last year. Not only with his flying ability, but with his attitude and his demeanor about this whole thing, and you could see the love and the desire to do this correctly. And he sure knows how to work hard. We found that out, and I've never seen anybody that is so hungry for information and then uses that information well. You know?
Yeah, I'm really giving it all.
Yeah.
You got to say, Chris?
What do you want me to say after that?
Yeah, follow that, Werwage. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of things to this, a lot of learning, especially with the stuff Bob sent me and, talking to Billy. But the thing that's really been fun is, we've been flying, pretty much every second of the day, if we're not feeding the horses or doing some other stuff. But the other thing we've been really focusing on is, trying to get the people, in a place where we can start, going that route. I mean, we've cut the tail pieces of it, and we built those, and we got the wing all, ready to go. We're just gonna get that cut, but we're getting really close. I think in the next month or so, we should be having the prototype down to Sparky to put together. So that's what we've been talking a lot about. Trying to, we're trying to figure out how in the world we can, make it the best that it can. It's close to what we've been actually doing, on our own personal ships.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
it sure is an amazing airplane. I've been watching it, since, 95, 96, Bill? And, and it's people who have never seen that airplane in person, and if you see it sitting amongst other airplanes, it looks like it's got to weigh, twice as much as everything there, and it weighs actually probably 10 ounces less than most airplanes on the field. It's about, 54 ounces all up with the motor on board? And that's an incredible airplane. It's so buoyant. It looks like you could park it at 5 feet and just walk over and grab it out of the air. It's so buoyant. Not to say that lightweight is the only factor that's important, but certainly that airplane has proven to me that lightweight is one of the most important things.
Yeah.
Well, I can guarantee
and rigidity,
I can guarantee you that from having two that were 10 ounces heavier. Maybe a little more.
A
little more.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that those trips to Tucson gave us was we kind of coalesced a formula over those 8 or 9 or 10 trips, whatever it was we took. And I think Billy would agree with all of this. It got down to where we said there's 5 attributes that every airplane has to have. And I think I even mentioned this last time we did an interview, is that they got to be light, and they got to be straight, and they have to be rigid. And the rigidity and the accuracy goes hand in glove, because if an airplane is accurate on the workbench but not accurate under load, it's not accurate. So rigidity is very important, and of course the proper powertrain, whether it be glow or electric or nuclear or steam or 2 chipmunks on a turntable, as long as it's powerful enough to do the job, repeatable, understandable, and tunable by the owner. And the 5th thing would be a very robust and fully adjustable control system. And if all of those attributes are present in virtually any of the modern designs, or any design, it's going to be a good airplane.
Billy said that he's going to send the canopy mold to you, and you're going to mold me a couple of canopies. Is that right?
Yeah, I have a little device called the Formicator, Formicator, Formicator. That molds the canopies very well. And I have some actual real, if anybody's interested, I have some acetate I got from fellow who went out of business and passed away, and I bought out his the materials from his kidding company. I have some real 30,000 cellulose acetate butyrate, just beautiful stuff, and I can do canopies and so forth. We did one for Joe out of Musco. He just loved it. It was beautiful.
So it's not like the soda bottle way to go.
No, this is the real deal stuff, the old stuff.
Yeah, that's good.
And
where you
has a unique smell to it, but it really is beautiful.
Where are you guys getting your silk span from now?
Getting what?
Silk span.
Bob,
what's silk span?
Yeah. Well, I tried Broduck on this last one, and I really wasn't very happy with it. I had to. I think that was the one thing I'm going to change. I'm not going to do Broduck silk span. If I can find some old stuff from somebody else, I might do that again, or else I'm going to have to go to polyspan. But there was just too many microscopic holes that I never could fill. I guess they weren't microscopic because you could see them, but...
my understanding about silkspan is that silkspan, one of the uses for it was tea bags, as I understand. And there was a carcinogen. They found a carcinogen in the manufacturing process. And when they removed the carcinogen, they removed whatever property it was that made that stuff very usable for our purposes. And the new stuff, and no matter who sells it, it has nothing to do with the person selling it. They just can't. Nobody can find they can't purchase silkspan of the quality we used to have. And the problem is with the older stuff, even if you find it, if it's been exposed to air, it's a vegetable fiber and it will rot. And then if you use that and you dope it and then you start the engine and the vibration can cause splits right along the cap strips. Matter of fact, Lou Walgast had that happen to one of his airplanes. It split along every cap strip.
Bill, I know you're a big fan of Japanese tissue, and Jerry Phelps does a wonderful job with Japanese tissue. I can't make it work. You got any secrets on how to make Japanese tissue work?
Struggle. Not really. I mean, I knew a guy that could actually, Dave Wallach could actually do a damp, which was something I could never do. It's, as fragile as it is. But I just put it on dry, and I'm real careful. And the little wrinkles you do have in places, make sure that it's something that's not beyond the capability of the Jap tissue shrinker.
Right.
What do you put on the Jap tissue to shrink it? You spray water on it or some kind of?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I water shrink it and then use regular dope. Don't use non-tautening.
I've heard some people say that you could use isopropyl alcohol and water together, and that actually shrinks it a little better. A very light mist of that.
I've heard that. I never did that, but I have heard that before.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Ron says that the Japanese tissue is just as, I don't know how to say it, just as durable as silkspan. Do you think it is?
No. It depends. The real old Jap tissue that we used to use is maybe a little better grade or something. I don't know. But the PEC polymer Japanese that they call Japanese tissue, which is, I guess, a little different variant on the theme of that stuff, it holds up real well. The only thing is, it's hard to get down good on small surfaces.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't want to adhere as well as the old stuff did. But once it's down, that green Aries is from 02, and the covering's like it's brand new on there.
And
so
it generally.
I got that from Diesky, that idea. That was he's the one that put me on that PEC polymer.
It generally takes a lot less dope for Jap tissue, doesn't it? Yeah.
Right.
2 coats or 3 coats, and you're ready to go.
Yeah. Well, a little more than that, but I mean, still, it's you don't have much to fill.
Did Chris happen to show you the DC 540 that I've just about got everybody hooked on?
No, but I heard about it.
I
heard you could spray your hand and make your fingernails destroy and just disappear and sand your hand down and it'd be beautiful.
Well, the nice thing about DC 540, and I keep telling people this, is that you can spray it on and within 5 minutes be sanding it off.
That's something.
and it feels
And
good.
this is stuff you can get in
You can get it at Napa.
Lowe's or Napa.
It's a Napa product.
Okay.
But I go to Napa and I order this stuff, and they know that whoever the DC 540 is for, because nobody else uses it. So all you modelers go buy a bunch of it so they keep it around.
That's what, I keep asking them when I go to the store, you still got this stuff in stock? And they say, why is that? I say, because anything that works, they discontinue.
Boy, howdy. That's the truth.
Buy a lot.
It's made by Sherwin-Williams, and Jerry Hopp is some type of a truck dealer in Ohio there, and he's going to see if he can get it by the gallon, and I think that'd be great if we could get it by the gallon, mix it ourselves.
Yeah, it doesn't spray that good out of a spray can. You can get run. Well, it's not like a bad run. Like, it settles nice, but it's really easy to run that stuff.
Well, you're putting too much on then.
Leveling.
You're putting too much on then, because I never get a run with that stuff. Never.
He's a kid.
Come on, I'm back. What's that about?
He's just a kid.
If a little bit is good, a whole lot more is better, and too much is perfect.
Yeah.
Show him how to do it, Billy. Yeah, you don't need much.
Used to think that way about nose weight.
I heard a story about thunderbolts and nose weight with you and Bob McDonald, Bill. Bob McDonald, this thing won't turn. You look down in there and you took his airplane, turned it upside down, unscrewed the motor, took some type of big lead sinker out of the nose, threw it out, said, now fly it. Is that correct?
That's true. That many nose weight stories exist in my file. One of them is about Hunt nose heavy story.
Yeah.
About brass, because his father being a machinist, he was a specialist in heavy weight. His father used to have me fly these airplanes that I thought the handle was set wrong because I couldn't get them off the ground, but I really realized it was the nose weight all the time.
By the way, how'd that airplane do at the Nats and Worlds that year?
Well, it really did prove that brass is alive and well, but
no, I have since seen the light in every sense of the word, and have taken the nose weight out of my airplanes. And even Bill has to admit that my latest, like the Genesis, he says he probably wouldn't retrim that and take any weight out of the nose of that.
When I fly Bob's airplanes now, it's like trimmed in the way I would trim them. But the first experience was, all I can think of is the man has an incredibly fast wrist, and because either that or he can turn gravity off or something. But I thought, this is nose heavy. And then Bob, didn't go that much longer. They passed that rule in New York. He didn't have to carry brass in the front end of the airplane. Once they passed that, he moved his CG towards Ohio, and things got better. Now,
my son Robbie, he flies, with the CG someplace about mid tailwheel. Neither one of us can fly his airplanes,
Yeah.
But he flies like Gieske used to fly.
Only with a motor.
Only with a motor now, yeah.
I can't handle those.
I remember one day, Billy came in to visit, and Rob had his RD-1. This was about 91 or 92, and we went down to the field to fly, and Bob was flying the RD-1, and he was doing, about 4.5 foot pull-outs, nice and neat. And Bill said, "Can I fly that?" And Robbie said, "Oh, yeah, they're like brothers." He says, "Yeah, sure, here." So Bill goes out and he puts them down about 3 feet. And Robbie didn't say a word. He just goes up the next flight and puts them down at 2 feet. And Bill didn't say a word. He goes up and puts them down at 1.5 feet. And I'm a nervous wreck through the whole thing,
You never joined that one.
I never got into that. I was going to get all bruised up in that contest, so I decided to stay out of that one.
Fun.
I remember back in the 60s where everybody flew at 3 feet, 2 feet, It was cool then, I thought.
Wasn't Wesley Dick known for that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Everybody back then basically flew lower. I mean, the top of the Aries, really, if you look at the original pictures, was taller than it became for its life. Because
I'm sure.
I kicked it in a low contest with our Kowalski, and I didn't crash. But,
didn't Jimmy Varnholz drag the rudders quite often?
Oh yeah. Yeah, he was good at it.
Yeah.
Sometimes even when it was flying.
Yeah.
That's a little too low.
Well,
Of course, you remember the year at the team trials, Bill, where I took my heavy airplane and the wind came up and did that, 2-inch pull out, and you heard the propeller going along the ground. You remember that?
Yeah.
Man, that airplane's still hanging up. I brought it home, and I took the motor out of it, and it's hanging on the wall. It hasn't moved since the team trials. Haven't done anything to it.
Too heavy to move.
Yeah, that thing was a turd.
We had the, I remember loaning you money so you could fix that blacktop and get out of there.
Yeah, but it turned that 13.5-inch prop into about a 3-inch prop, and drug the rudder off.
Yeah.
It just went brrrr. Everybody looked like, what's going on here? I just kept it right level on the bottom of that square. It was fun. Oh well.
I'll tell you, we've had some good times over the years. Some of the best times of my life were with Bill, traveling and going to even at the contest. It was fun too, but I think the traveling for me and the some of the funny things that happened and some of the funny stories will be the things I'll remember for the rest of my life. It was just wonderful stuff. I mean, working out different harmonies to Jackson Browne songs all the way out to Tucson, and
those were great trips.
I know
they really were.
I know you got some dirt on Bob, Bill. So let's hear it.
Oh yeah, well, here we go. Remember, be kind to me. My back hurts.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't know if he's got enough medication in him right now. No, I don't have dirt. I think he's been a great help to me in the hobby, and certainly, on the side that doesn't pertain to me, which is something I really talk about, is the fact that he's done so much. The writing and everything, and all the articles and everything, and what he's doing is a tremendous contribution to Stunt. I don't know, things weren't. I'm not going to mention names, but things weren't going that good as far as what articles and things were going. And Bob seems to almost be a one-man show on keeping it all together and making it go. I think he could have been one of the better flyers. He is one of the better flyers ever. I think had he had spent a little more time on that, I think he would have won more. And I'm just giving you what I really think, and I think he's developed.
And we've often talked about that if I put a little bit more effort into it, and that's something I have to kick back to Bill too. Is that there are certain people in this hobby who are very, very successful, and they've earned it because they put the time in. I mean, I remember going out to spend a day with Billy trimming the. I'm getting a bad echo here.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that is.
Spending a couple of days trimming out the original Crossfire, and he put in about 70 flights in 2 days on that airplane, and got a airplane that was just awful, working very well for me. And I didn't realize that you could work that hard at the field. He went from dawn to dusk, and no lunch breaks. And then the next day we got up and did it again. And I realized just exactly how hard you have to work at this to be successful. And the only time I ever did put that kind of effort in was just before the '78 World Championships, and it paid off with a win. But that was the only time I've ever put in that type of effort. So I could take that criticism to heart, and it's absolutely true. And it should have put more work in.
Well, you had other things to do too.
Yeah. Well,
still
no excuse.
You were more domesticated than I was, as
That's
far
true.
as life goes. And I just kind of was really living to do this. and I would put the time in, and I had the desire to do it. And you can have the desire, but as I've learned a little later in life, you can have the desire, but if you don't have the time, you hit the wall, you know. And I'm trying to bounce off that wall and come back and do some more serious flying. And
which is why I see such great things for Chris ahead, because he's putting in the effort and the time.
How's your health, Bill?
It's all right. I haven't seen it lately, but it's all right. I think it's all right. I know I'm still struggling with a few things, but on a daily basis, I feel pretty good. I don't think there's anything that's gonna grab me up before I get another airplane done or anything, you know. So I guess it's all right.
I know the world is dying to hear how your health is, Bob. Why don't you give an update on that?
Yeah, I'm a little better now. It turns out that I have the doctor said my back is a train wreck, and there's about 7 vertebrae that have to be fused or worked on with neurosurgery. But they gave me a course of prednisone and got the excruciating pain. I was in excruciating pain for about 3 weeks, and I just almost went crazy. Some people said that happened a long time ago, but that's all right. I feel a lot better. But the surgery to come is going to be daunting. There's going to be several courses of it, and I'm not sure exactly how much mobility I'm going to have to be a competition flyer after the surgeries. But that's okay. I enjoyed it. Good Lord bless me richly with years and years and years of flying, and I got to watch all the best flyers that ever lived do this. I mean, from Reinhardt and Scarinzi, you know, through Schaefer and Simons and those guys, and then up to Billy and Les and Al Raby and all these great flyers. It was a wonderful life. Just being there to watch these guys fly and be a part of it was a blessing, you know. Right. So I'm fine, and I'm fine with whatever the Lord has in store for me going forward.
I surely wanted to be as good a flyer as you guys, and I probably was better when I was younger, but I don't have the time anymore, but I still like to build. You know, and so I'm just building and kind of doing my internet thing here. But maybe at a later date, I don't know.
Not everybody is going to win these things. I mean, even no matter how good you are over a 10-year period, there's going to be some people who win many of them, and some won't win any at all, who maybe in a different time frame would have won a lot of contests. So you have to do this for some reason other than just winning a contest. You have to do it because you love the people, you love the sport, you love the way the airplane feels at the end of the lines, you love the looks of the airplane. You just love every aspect of this endeavor, you know.
Well,
it's true. It's true.
I like walking up to an airplane and picking up a piece of artwork, because that's basically what it is to me. I mean, when I was a kid, it was, where do you buy that? No, you can't buy that. You have to make it. Really? You have to make that? Yeah. And I learned from some good guys, you know, on the West Coast, and that's
Tom Warden and those guys.
Yeah. Bill Noyes, Tom Warden. They were. I think the name of that club in the '60s was called the Barnstormers, but I'm not sure. I think it was a Barnstormer. We flew out at Whittier Narrows. Bob Whiteley was out there. Of course, at that time, Phil Granderson was flying combat, but they flew out there, and there was two.
Jim Mayfield and guys like that.
There was a father-son team, and I always wanted to be like that son. That kid.
Colliers.
That's it.
Collier.
That kid could fly. They flew a monochrome color Nobler, and boy, that kid could fly. Blue Nobler.
Tommy Collier. He's now a paraplegic. He had a bad accident, a diving board accident, and he can't walk anymore. But he still flies. He gets out in the center and flies half A's out there with the guys at the Knights of the Round Circle, and he's very involved, and he's a wonderful, wonderful guy.
Yeah. I mean,
his father just passed away recently, by the way.
Have you seen Billy? Have you seen Bob McDonald lately? What's he doing?
He's building a classic. I mean, not a classic. One of those midterm guys. You know, 70 to 80.
The Aquila, I think it is, isn't it? The Aquila.
Yeah, Aquila. Aquila. Yeah, he's got it. He was putting clear on it about a week and a half ago.
So it's not.
I remember borrowing the original Aquila to train the judges. I was the assistant event director at the 82 Nationals in Lincoln, and I trained the judges. I was going to train them using Gene Schaefer's stunt machine, but some of the competitors got a little mad that I was going flying backwards, and they asked me to get another airplane. So Bobby lent me airplanes. They're incredibly good flying airplanes.
Yeah, I've flown all of them, I think, and Bob's a good builder.
Yes, he
is.
is.
Builder, and now that he's got doing time without all the time his work is, he's becoming a better flyer as time goes on.
Yes, he is. He's very close to making the top 5 a couple of years ago, and he well deserved it. And Bobby, you were talking before, Chris, about polyspan. Bob has done a number of airplanes that were quite light and very well finished and beautifully done with polyspan. He's a master at the polyspan.
Didn't Sparky? Didn't you do a video on polyspan?
Yeah, all my planes now are polyspan and silkspan for the wood, but I'm using polyspan on the wings. But I'd like to do some silkspan on a few. It's a little lighter. So Bob is not building a fake USA 1 there, the appendix or whatever that is?
Appendix?
Apteryx?
Yeah, whatever it is. We got that one guy.
No, he took his appendix out.
I still got my appendix.
There's one guy that shows up to Classic at the Nats all the time. He's got that appendix.
Jim Rhodes has a beautiful Apteryx that he flies out of VSC, and he's flown at the Nationals a few times. I think he won Classic at the Nationals a couple of years ago with it. It's gorgeous, and he flies it very well.
I keep bugging him. That's a nice-looking USA 1. No, that's an appendix. Okay, whatever.
Appendix.
Yeah, well, actually, that came before the USA 1 style did. I think I gave credit and print to Jerry for I flew his airplane, and he flew mine, and I liked the way my airplane flew better, but I liked the looks of his better. And I said, when I go home, it was in September from the team tryouts, I said, I'm going to redo this, and it's going to look like this before the snow flies. And I did. But basically, that was all Jerry Worth styling. I said it, yeah. And his airplane flew good. And that's what the appendix is. Yeah, sure.
So you're not above thievery.
Hmm?
You're not above thievery.
No, I confess to it, though,
No, we're actually darn proud of it.
Well, I haven't had to serve time for it.
Billy said something to me recently. I got into playing a lot of acoustic guitar, and he said, Bob, did you ever think you'd be flying electric airplanes and playing acoustic guitar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had to be there.
I'm sure. So, are you still playing music as a job, or what would you?
Sort of. I mean, I'm doing kid things. I do nursing homes with the pony, and I sing, and then I do preschools and stuff with the pony. I don't work alone. There's 2 horses' asses up there, and I'm one. So I do all those with a lot of those. So it keeps me playing and doing, Western music, and for the old people, I do standards and all kinds of different things. So I'm still playing.
I don't know whether I ever told you this or not. Back when I lived in California, I lived in Palm Springs for a while, and I worked at Palm Canyon Glass, which is right across the street from the Gene Autry Hotel. And at that time, I was quite the drinker, and I used to drink my lunch every day. And I came into the tavern and said, "Get everybody a beer. Get that old man down there a beer." And the barmaid says, "Don't you know who that is?" I said, "I got no idea." She said, "That's the singing cowboy." I go, "Really? What songs he sing?" He goes, "That's Gene Autry. He's the richest man in California."
Oh, man.
I go, "Well, get him a beer anyway." And Gene and I became Gene and I became acquaintances, pretty close acquaintances after that. It was kind of neat. He had some stories to tell. And along with that, J.R. Silverheels, I was his groom. He had horses, and I was with the Southern California Horse Racing Board at Hollywood Park, and I was J.R. Silverheels' groom.
Wow.
So,
that makes you the Lone Ranger.
No.
Didn't your father, Bill? Didn't your father? He was a horse handler. Didn't he handle a famous horse at one point in time?
Oh, several of them, but I guess being with Harvey, a trainer that was one of the best in the world, and my father, he was friends with my dad, and my dad took care of all his business things. Mm-hmm. But my dad got to meet a lot of famous horses, and all saddlebred,
The bad thing about meeting the Long Ranger, or the Tonto, was at the time that I worked for him, he was in a wheelchair. He had a stroke. So he wasn't the same guy that we all watched on television. But,
oh, boy.
That was in 1977, because I was there the year Elvis died. I remember being in the stall listening to the radio and when Elvis died. So that's how I remember.
I know where I was when I heard about Elvis dying. I was at Middlesex Field waiting for Lou Walgas. We were getting ready to practice for the 76 Nationals, and I was waiting for him to come to the field. I was listening to the radio and heard that Elvis had died.
I was in Brighton, Michigan, playing music. When I heard it that morning, came to my room. The singer came to my room and he told me, he said, Elvis died. And I still remember the moment.
I'll give you the exact
Chris
date.
wasn't born yet.
I was just saying, I had no idea what most of you guys are talking about here besides Elvis.
August 16th.
No.
Elvis died August 16th, 1977, and I was in Hollywood Park.
Was it 77?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was 76. All right, whatever. Anyway.
No, 77.
That was 77. Then I was probably practicing for the team selection instead, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But I remember your dad, Bill, and your mom, too, of course. But I remember the special relationship you had with your dad. Your dad really, 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 and truly loved the fact that you flew model airplanes and was incredibly supportive.
Sure was. I couldn't have picked better parents. I just said that the other day. If I had anybody to pick from, I was lucky enough to have parents like I had.
I love your dad. He was a great guy. I love your mom, too. But your dad was a special guy, and I felt so bad when he passed,
Yeah, well.
Unfortunately, that happens to everybody.
That's all of us,
Yeah.
And Bill and my dad got along real well too, and they were real close friends.
Yeah, your dad and I. Your dad thought I was best engineer over there. He used to say, "You're figuring it out good the way you do it in your head." I remember him saying that. I don't even know what Dean's talking about. Well, but what you got there is good. And Dean would have a math thing set out there like.
Bob, in the next couple of
it was
days,
weed-out placement or something.
in the next couple of days, if you could send me all the pictures you could of you and Billy, and I guess where was it, France or?
I was in Poland.
Poland.
Poland in 1980. That was one of the places we went together. And
any links, any video?
We had a few others.
Anything you got of Billy, I'd like to put that with this broadcast. We've been running now about an hour and 15 minutes. I mean, we can talk on if you guys want to. I mean, it doesn't much matter. But I got to
run. But one of the things I wanted to mention was that along with Billy, some of the best times of my life were when Les and Bill and I were flying together in world teams or various places. Billy and Les together, they're both incredibly funny people, very, very good senses of humor. But you put them both together, you reach almost critical mass in humor, to the point where your sides would hurt so bad that you'd have to leave the room when they were talking because it was so funny, and people would laugh so hard that you almost couldn't breathe. So people who have never been in some of the motel rooms during some of the discussions at a nationals or an FAI team selection have heard stories about some of the little one-man shows or two-man shows that Billy and Les put on. I'm here to tell you, it was some of the funniest stuff I've ever heard in my entire life.
I know.
It was fun.
I had,
some of it was at my expense, but that's okay.
I had, at one time, I think it was last year, I told Billy not to plagiarize me, and he just about chopped me off at the knees when I got to the 12th Street Cafe. It was like, okay.
Yeah, you don't want to make an enemy out of Billy,
Yeah, it was great.
He can be brutal at times, but I've got to tell you, always fun. And the Billy, from the heart, pal. You're a brother, and we've gone through so much together over the years. I would not change a day of it.
Very good. I agree with you. I agree.
Yeah, great times. I hope we have a lot more times to come, because some of the times we had together are the most precious moments of my entire life.
I agree. And once you outgrew that brass, they got better.
And with that, I'm going to jump off and let you guys talk. And why don't you guys do another segment, and I'll listen to it when you edit it all up, Sparky, and we'll get you some pictures. And thank you so much for including me in this.
You're more than welcome. I'm glad to have you, Bob. And
all right, man. Bye-bye.
We'll go ahead and wrap up with Bill. Bill, you got any insight for the guys out there on the forum that might be trying to come up in the area of stunt?
Move the lead out forward.
Pay real attention to what you're doing. And, take advice, make your own decision what suits you. Latching onto somebody's trail and things can move you along, but eventually you have to start making up your mind what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. And you have to face the music if you want to keep getting better. And once you do, it becomes easier to get better and better. And I'm one of these people that doesn't think that you're going to burn out by practicing too much. I think you can keep right on hammering away. Maybe if you get a little bit too over the top with being tired, then it's time to quit. But there's usually something can be learned by flying more. And not mindlessly. Keep an eye on everything you're doing, everything that trims on the airplane. Paul Walker's written some really good, put into writing a lot of really good things that really should be followed when you're trimming an airplane. And he's bothered to take the time to just, not a lot of people really understand that, but a lot of people don't do that, and they always wind up, the old saying is there's a lot of good designs out there that never flew good because they were never trimmed right. And I think that's really true. I think we put a lot of emphasis on the particular airplane that's hot at the time, and while that's good, they wouldn't be if they weren't trimmed right.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing I've learned these last 3 days. I showed up, and after my first flight, Billy walked up to me and shook my hand and said, "Well, we really got something good here." And I thought we were done for the weekend. And we worked on it. We probably, we
22 changes.
We made 22 changes, and 21 of them were the right things.
Yeah.
We just kept hitting it and hitting it and hitting it, and I just couldn't believe that it kept getting better and better and better and better and better. And I say, forget about the builder of the model rule. It's whoever builder of the trimmer of the model rule. Man, we got this. We got my plane in a space that I can't even imagine. And so it's just being relentless and just keep and for me it's about access to information. I keep harping on that. Bob was really helpful for me, but I think I've really accelerated where I was, mostly because I just got information that I needed, and there's plenty of ways to learn. I mean, Stunt Hangar has been really valuable to me. I mean, somebody gave me every issue of Stunt News since 1970, and I haven't got back past 2000, but I'm working my way back. But I've learned just a lot, and it's endless. So we were flying today, and there's two people at the field, and it was a joy just to watch them fly and learn. I think that's one of the best parts about our hobby is just to watch other people learn and help them along the way. And the biggest thing, take your tip weight out and move your lead out forward, and you'll be all right.
I have a question for Bill before we go. This is a personal question. I mean, it's not personal, but it's for me. Bring yourself to the Super Tiger 46 days. My Super Tiger 46 is about impossible to get started. I'm either thinking it needs a ring or it's losing lower end compression somewhere. What's your take on that?
I would start with it. What kind of seal does it have? Does it have a good ring seal? A lot of times when the rings, if it's been real hot or something, you lose the round ring. Or you can even lose the cylinder to where it's round.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's got a lot of compression. I mean,
it's got a lot of pop.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, okay. That's usually a problem with the Tiger 46. It's a pretty simple, straightforward motor, but I used to, go through a lot of, rings and go to World Engines and look through hundreds of rings to find really round ones. And I would have cylinders re-chromed and honed and everything because the seal was the difference in really making a good one and a bad one.
Well, I have an Aldrich 46 that I'm gonna swap out, but that's the reason why I didn't go flying today is because I just haven't got around to swapping the motor out. And last weekend I just could not get the darn thing started. I got one flight and the motor was running ratty. So I got to change it. I'll send that one to Bowman, I guess, and have him put a ring in if he's still doing it.
Yeah. It must be unless you've got some, you obviously don't have a leak in the head or anything. I mean, a leak in a gasket or anything, do you?
No, not that I can see. I was thinking maybe the back plate could have it could be.
They won't start if the back plate is loose at all or leaks.
Yeah.
They'll be real hard to start.
Yeah.
I know Fox was impossible to start with a loose back plate.
I haven't pulled it out of the airplane, but I'm thinking I got the motor for nothing at Brodax last year, and this guy gave me 5 engines with the stipulation that all I had to do was build airplanes to put them in, and Super Tiger 60s, Super Tiger 46s, VF 40s, and all kind of stuff. So I built some classic airplanes. I'm getting ready to do another one. But
I checked that crankcase cover on there. That a lot of times that gasket, that stuff's old. And if it's leaking by, they all become bears to start.
I mean, I got it started with electric starter, but I just, that's Mickey Mouse to me to use electric starter.
Yeah, something's wrong if you got to ram that thing in there with that starter,
Yeah. All right, Bill, I want to thank you for being on the Stunt Hangar program.
Archie, it's been a pleasure being on here, and it's a pleasure talking to you, sir.
Yeah,
and
pleasure's all mine. I'm sure the fans on Stunt Hangar will surely appreciate it. I'm hoping this gets the most hits because you're probably the highest profile person I've had on here so far.
Well, I try to stay low, but
I know you don't have a computer, but once I get this edited up, maybe Chris will show it to you. It'll take a day or so to get this finished.
I think we can get it on there. Can we get it on ours?
You can get it on the tablet, yeah.
Chris says we can get it on ours, the satellite thing, because we don't have a connection back here in the woods.
Right. Okay. Well, and I know that you're not on Stunt Hangar, but get that canopy mold over to Hunt. I
will.
I've only been waiting 10 years.
I know, but it'll be worth it. It'll be worth the wait.
10 years.
It's in my hands. I'll make sure it gets there.
My son's got it now. He mails it. He knows how to mail things and everything.
All right, buddy.
I'll make sure it gets there.
Well, Chris, Billy, thank you very much, and we'll talk to you next time.
Very good. Take care of yourself, Spark.
You too.
Bye.
Bye now.
Bye.
That was Billy Werwage, Bob Hunt, and Chris Rudd. And I want to thank you for watching the broadcast of the Stunt Hangar program. I'm going to see if I can get this edited up in a couple of days. And until next time, tight lines and fair winds. Good day.